Hi, Mark Kaler. Thanks for joining me. Early last year, the drama around President Trump's tariffs dominated news headlines, market predictions, and interaction between the U.S. and our allies. Yet for most Americans, daily life went on with little obvious impact on prices for goods. That is, at least not right away. The costs arrived later and with very little fanfare. President Trump raised average U.S. tariffs to about 17%. Now that's the highest level since 1932 following the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act. His stated goal was to reinvigorate American manufacturing, bring back jobs to the United States, and reduce dependence on foreign goods. Tariffs, however, are not abstract policy tools. They're taxes collected at the border on trillions of dollars of goods imported each year. The federal government collected an estimated $287 billion in customs, duties, taxes, and fees in 2025. And that was just a partial year of these being on. And that's triple what it took in just 2 years earlier. While small compared to income tax revenues, still $287 billion is real money. It provides a meaningful new source of funds for government spending. But one important detail often gets lost. Those tariffs were paid by importers, which are largely 87% are American companies. That's American corporations. While the administration has argued that foreign producers ultimately shoulder the burden, most economists agree that it's American businesses and consumers who bear most of the cost through higher prices, lower wages, or reduced investment. The administration has also highlighted a shrinking trade deficit as evidence the policy is working. In recent months, the deficit did fall, hitting its lowest since 2009 before rebounding. Supporters view that as a sign of renewed economic strength. Economists are a little more cautious about this. Earlier in 2025, the deficit surged as companies rushed to import goods ahead of the tariffs. I know I personally rushed to buy items on which tariffs would be placed before they went into effect. From January through November, the trade deficit remained higher than the year before. Now, whether recent declines represents a lasting shift or just a temporary adjustment to that blip remains uncertain. Well, what about manufacturing? The centerpiece of the tariff strategy. The results are mixed. Despite higher tariffs, factory employment declined last year. Supporters argue that rebuilding manufacturing takes time, pointing to gains in industrial production and capital spending as early signs of progress. But still, much of that growth has occurred in sectors such as aerospace and electronics, which were less affected by tariffs. Industry facing heavier tariffs, including autos and auto parts, saw production actually fall. Some manufacturers report that higher costs for imported machinery and materials to make the cars and the goods have made expansion harder, not easier. For consumers, prices did rise. The increases were initially smaller than many economists expected, in part because companies absorbed some of those higher costs and hesitated to raise prices aggressively for fear of losing customers. One estimate suggests inflation last summer would have been about 2.2%. Without the tariffs, and instead was 2.9%. Inflation in services has cooled, helping the overall numbers, but most economists agreed prices would be lower without tariffs. More recently, affordability became a buzzword as consumers started feeling the impact of higher prices on their household budgets. Polling reflects how this feels on the ground. A New York Times Indiana University survey found that a majority of voters oppose the tariffs, and more than half, as I recall, believe recent policies have made life less affordable. There appears to be a sense that things cost more, even if it's hard to say exactly why. The gap between imposition and impact is part of what makes tariffs so confusing and so politically durable. By the time higher prices show up, the news cycle's moved on. There's no breaking news banners when your grocery bill creeps higher or when a manufacturer quietly cuts back. The drama already had its moment. For American household, the bill arrives later. Thanks for listening.